Hello and good morning. It is Friday the 7th of May. My name is Steve Pugh. I try and broadcast every week live from somewhere called Gateshead in the northeast of England. And basically my job is that I get hired by different companies to help them make a difference. I'm a management consultant and I help companies with everything from sales, strategy, marketing, management. I'm basically tackling the real issues that they face, predominantly in SMEs, who I believe SMEs and smaller companies and freelancers have a slightly different challenge to larger companies, purely in the fact that you generally have fewer staff, but they're often actually asked to do more things. So one person might be asked to do the accounts and do some sales and manage people and do some HR. Someone else might be asked to run the company and also speak to customer. My point is that you often need lots of different skill sets that isn't as common in large companies. So I launched a business course called the Roadmap MBA, and it's an alternative business course to really teach these skills all together in a way that often it can be quite difficult to learn elsewhere. That yes, you can go to the library and you can read hundreds of books and pick up the techniques, but often the challenge is actually then interpreting that intelligence and that knowledge to into how do you actually use it for your business. But then actually the idea of, well, how do you know if you're using it correctly? And actually, is there anything else you can do to really make an impact? Because especially for smaller companies, the only thing that matters is making money, staying alive and improving, but doing it quickly. And for me, that's where a lot of traditional education falls down. So that with the Roadmap MBA, it's a textbook which looks a little bit something like this, and it's 216 pages of really good content that if you go onto the website, which is roadmapmba.com, you can get a full walkthrough of the entire course, what the website looks like, what's in the textbook, etc. And I do that just because for me, it's all about being completely transparent about what you get, how it works. But the reason for the live Q&As every Friday, and please, morning Simon, please get involved in the comments and drop me a message, is that often people also want to be able to ask questions. They want to know actually, how do I use this myself? Am I doing it correctly? And also because I get paid to do this full time, as in I work with lots of other companies as a consultant or as part of their team, because I actually practice these things and help run these companies, I can give real world experience of what other businesses do, which is massively valuable to a lot of people, just to know what do other people do outside of their business, if that makes sense. But the whole point of the live Q&As every Friday is that people send me in questions to talk about different topics that they might not have the access to ask those questions from anywhere else. I pick up interesting stuff from the general media. So in the past we've done Colin the Caterpillar, I've done Apple AirTags and why they were a clever product development for Apple. We do a whole range of things, and over the next 30 minutes or so, please feel free to join in. Let me know in the comments where you're from, which is always good. And then likewise, feel free to actually plug your business and let other people in the community know a little bit more about you and what you do. That as long as it's done tastefully, I think it always it never hurts to shy bands getting out, actually plug what you're doing and why it works, because actually there might be someone else out there that wants to hire you or just get to know each other. And any opportunity is always a good opportunity. So today I'm going to do a bit of a recap on things that I've been up to this week. I always say hi to Simon, who is always generally first to comment each week, so he gets an award for that. And again, Simon, at some point I'd love to get you on to talk about shy burns, getting out and mental health and stuff that you want to do as well. I'm going to go over stuff that I've done and also got coming up. So we've got some good free events coming up, which are really useful, and I'll explain a bit more about those. And in terms of I normally pick some key topics to talk about within each session, because this is the real value for a lot of people. I then clip these up and they go onto separate 4-minute clips onto YouTube. So if you search for Steve Pugh Roadmap MBA, you should get hundreds of videos that you can go up and have a look. And today I'm going to go, it's all about what is the best way to observe your competitors, actually get a feel for what they're good at and how they work, and basically how can you do it better. We're going to talk about something called a hassle premium, which is basically how customers will pay you to either remove headaches for them or to perform a skill or function that is too much hassle to learn, which is something that would be quite interesting. And then the last but not least, which will be the main topic of today's session, is all about prototyping, but how to do it properly and how to actually compare different options. And it's called relevant importance testing. And it's a way that when you launch a new product or a service or a t-shirt or a restaurant or whichever, it's a way to actually know, how do you keep iterating and moving forward? Good morning, Simon. And likewise, I'm going to plug it whilst he's on as well. So I was very kindly interviewed by something called the Global Interview, which is run by Simon Hodgkins. And they interview, I think they're now into Series 17, a whole range of interesting people from around the world. It's about 10 or 12 questions, but I was very kindly asked. So there's a link in my bio somewhere. And actually after this, I will post it again, and that's what I was kind of planning to do. But it was also people I've since connected with who are all around the world, from Singapore to quite a few in the UK, one in Belgium. And it's great people and a great community that I suggest that you follow Simon's stuff, which is really good. And it's these kind of things that often in a live interactive session that I can talk about, and that kind of thing. And likewise, if you have any questions, please feel free to either send them in the chat, and I will actually answer them live right now, if that works for you. And that could be as simple as, how do I boost sales for my online magazine, or whichever. And yeah, so cool. I'm going to quickly get a quick sip of coffee, because it is Friday. What are we on? 9:06. And the other thing as well is that, because I like to make this very honest and interactive and stuff, if you do comment, it should pop up about here as well. And they last for about 6 minutes. And it's just a way for other people to see people getting involved, because actually we have people comment on lots of different platforms, from YouTube to Facebook to Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And it's just a way to kind of get to know each other and that kind of thing as well. So how is everyone? How's everyone's week been? I would genuinely kind of love to know. One of the things that I always try and talk about, because with any business, so for me, obviously I have a management consulting business, but also I have the business course, is that when you create your content. In last week's personal branding session, which I do classroom sessions every Tuesday, which you're more than welcome to join. So they're Tuesday, 3 p.m, and I do it over Zoom. And the link is on the front page of the Roadmap MBA kind of website. Is we were talking about personal branding and that kind of thing, and how you want to be authentic, is in, genuine to who you are and what things you're passionate about. Relevant is in, why should your audience care? And then likewise, unique. And one of the things that I always try and talk about is it's how you kind of combine those things. But relating to that, I always like to talk about my own journey, because actually people see me, if you follow any of the content, I'm the same as you. I'm on my own kind of journey. So if you have someone that talks the talk, you want to kind of see how they back it up. So one of the examples which I went public with yesterday, maybe the day before, was that as part of my kind of personal branding, I sort of had some professional photos done by a guy called Chris Owens. I've worked with Chris before. He's really, really good. But with one of the things that I wanted to, I'm really kind of starting to take this course, is as an alternative, accessible, fun, slightly quirky kind of, alternative to traditional business education that is accessible. But I wanted that to come across in photography as well, because at some point, and it's something we kind of talk on, is that it's always good for you, for your business, your organization, to get speaking slots, to go on podcasts, to basically raise awareness. Because the truth is, if people don't know who you are, they can't hire your stuff or buy your products or get involved with your course. So there's no point having a brilliant organization, which could be a fantastic charity, if you don't talk about it. But as part of that kind of branding, having good photography will actually help you get more speaking gigs and more people interested in your content. Because actually it's one way that people kind of perceive you and what you're about and your personality and that kind of thing. Especially in a business context, spending a few £100 if you can be very, very well spent, because it just gives that public perception to the post alone. When I posted the photos, is on about 8,000 views. So a way to, even if I was to pay for publicity to hit that many people, it would cost a lot of money. And it's that kind of thing of, it's really worth investing in certain things. I do it myself. And I always like to demonstrate what I'm doing, and you'll see my journey, just because I think too often you get people that teach business stuff, but actually they don't execute myself, and it's something I kind of pride myself on. Hi, Nabil. I'd love to know where you're from in the world. Please kind of drop it in the comments. I love it when we've had people from all across the world, and it's great to kind of have you involved as well. Okay, so some of the other things that I've done this week before I jump into some of the questions. I actually set up my business on Google, and I was on, obviously, Google, a search engine, for quite a long time. But now that I have this office and this base in the northeast of England, I hadn't actually previously set myself as a business location address because when I first set up I was working from home. So I did that this week, and just the prominence when people search for Roadmap MBA, Steve Pugh, MBA, alternative, business course, whichever, I actually think it'll do really good things for me and my presence, because Google will almost understand that I'm a real business with a real location. And it was just something that I'd kind of not put off, but I hadn't done until this week, which I thought was a really good process, but actually it was really easy to kind of do. This week as well, I also passed over 300 users on the platform. But the thing that I'm really kind of proud of as well is that we're also in 7 different countries. And the thing that I really enjoy about that is that I actually only launched this 12 weeks ago. I've been working on it for years, but actually, 12 weeks, 300 people, 7 countries, that over time, same as with any app or SaaS business or whichever, it's all about getting people involved, learning and iterating, and that's one of the questions I'm going to kind of touch on. But just to achieve that in 12 weeks is a milestone that I'm actually quite proud of. And the hope is to get to 1,000 maybe by Christmas, which is my goal. And everything that I make, I reinvest to get a better product or service or live stream or interactions. And one of the other things which I've been looking at as well is how can I also get more responsive and reactive, because everyone has different timescales and work schedules and kids' swimming lessons and stuff that they work to. So really I'm looking at how not everyone can make the 3 p.m. Tuesday classroom session. So I'm looking at how can I kind of innovate with that as well. But the point is I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to improve. On the 27th of May, I'm actually doing a free event with an organization called NEPIC. So NEPIC are the Northeast Process Innovation Cluster. Basically, it's all of the petrochem clients and pharmaceuticals within the Northeast of England. I'm doing a business strategy course with them. It's completely free if you're based in the Northeast of England or you're on the Supply Chain Northeast program. And what we're going to talk about is how most businesses, when they're looking to grow, solely focus on how do we sell more and how do we get more clients. Very few people actually take the step back to really think about, is what we're selling the correct thing to sell? Is there anything else we could sell? How do we differentiate our business in the market and really get the strategy correct before we try and accelerate it? And in a live session, basically we're going to walk through that with hopefully some interaction with the kind of audience. At the moment, there's 16 people signed up, which is actually, it's a really good number because it means that we can actually get more interaction. And basically, if you ever have smaller numbers on a webinar or a group, you can actually have better interaction. So as long as there's like 5 people, I actually don't mind, but register for that and I'll put some links in the kind of chat. But if you're around, I think it genuinely will. I think it'll open up your eyes about some ideas about how to develop your business or career. On Monday, I have my next interview. So I'm actually interviewing a guy called Chris Rabbit from a startup called Meow. So Meow is a very innovative tech platform, which is all about online networking, which I'm going to interview Chris about. So that'll be Monday, 4 p.m. But it should be a really interesting one to look at a company who were based in Leeds, I believe they've raised money. They've launched this really great platform and they're looking at how it's a hybrid baby between LinkedIn and Zoom. But I'm going to interview Chris on Monday. And again, part of that is to pick his brains about his story, his journey. What did he do to get started? How did he find it? And that kind of thing, which hopefully adds a lot of value to you as well, from people who are actually live there doing these kind of things properly as well. Also next week, I apologize, I'm talking quite a lot. I'm going to grab my coffee. I'm also going to start talking to and interviewing people, but not live, who are experts in different kind of subject matter, etc. So I'm actually going to speak to Amy Sargison from Muckle LLP. And what we're going to talk about is actually, it's all about employment law and why that's important to businesses, which is true. And my wife's an employment solicitor. But the point is, what Amy kind of specializes in is actually all to do with immigration. Because especially this year, towards the end of June, there's some immigration changes happening in the UK, which actually could affect a lot of employers if they have non-UK labour. So it's a really important thing to talk about. We're going to pre-record it, just make sure it's all legit and correct and stuff, and then kind of broadcast that probably sometime next week. But what I'm trying to do is find out industry experts who are really, really good at certain topics, who've got genuine kind of stuff to share, and then actually kind of start to share that with the community as well. And last but not least, what are we on? 9:14. I'm sorry I'm talking. Is the classroom session. Is we have the second of the personal branding classroom sessions on Tuesday, and what this is all about, as I kind of mentioned before, is making sure that your genuine personality and you're putting your best self out into the world, because that will make a massive difference to drive your sales and your business or your career prospects or whatever. And actually, it's the fact that you want to think, what do you want the world to think about you? But actually, if there are also any negatives that people might have perceptions about you, you can also address those and change those. And that's something that you're more than welcome to join on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. The link, again, is on the front page of the Roadmap MBA website, and I'll post it on socials as well. And it's a really kind of intimate classroom session when we talk through different things. Last week's, which was, because I've run each one twice, was really kind of useful. And yeah, I hope you can join us. Hi Simon, absolutely no problem at all, and thank you for posting the link. Obviously, whilst I present, I can't do it myself, but I genuinely appreciate the time, and it is definitely worth checking out, not just for me, but also for the other people who have been interviewed, not just now, but across the kind of past 17 sessions. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to talk about is actually how all businesses have competition. Actually, I'm going to write this down. Even if you run a business and you think it's super unique that there is no other competition, I'm going to try and think of something. I've got friends that I actually went to university with who send stuff into space. You know, you can send your ashes into space, but they do a lot of stuff with TV commercials and brands and stuff. That is pretty unique. But they still have competition in the market. There probably is people that actually do, what they do, but not many. But one of the other things that people often miss about competition is one of the things that you always compete against is the option to do nothing. So people could choose to send their product into space, film it, and it creates some really cool kind of content, or not. And it's that always balance of actually, you need to really have a proper idea on what you compete with and against to really understand your market, to really be able to find your niche. So for instance, with business education, with what I do, yes, you could go to a university, spend £40,000, take 2 years off work and learn some business skills. You could actually just start up your own business and learn it from scratch. Or you could do nothing, or whichever. And you really have to piece your offer together with actually thinking through all the options that you actually compete against. And often it's not kind of obvious. But one of the best things you can do, and I do this, is to really understand your customers, to really understand your competitors, what they're good at, what they're bad at, why they're better than you, why you're better than them, is actually to be a customer yourself. So for instance, I spend a lot of time reading business books and looking at other people. So this is called the Personal MBA by a guy called Josh Kaufman. And I must admit, the content is pretty good. Some of it is useful, some of it less so. But the big thing that I've really kind of realized is the takeaway is that it's a proper slog to go through. There's 400 plus pages and it's all text. There's no graphics, there's no real breaks, and it's just non-stop. It's quite difficult to go through. So what I've been interested in is that although actually his content is good, there's a lot of weak points that I know when I look at my customers and consumers. There's different ways to do it. So for instance, the whole interactivity thing is that I'm playing hard on. But likewise, explaining videos, concepts in videos and that kind of thing is really important. But then likewise, any of my alternative customers that have online courses, my plan is over time, I'm going to do them. I'm going to find them, I'm going to see what they work, see what works, see what they do better than me, and vice versa. But the same would be true if you have a coffee shop and you're looking actually, how do we innovate, how do we learn, how do we grow, is go and actually do market research, go and sit in your rival coffee shops, find out what their coffee tastes like, what prices do they do, what kind of clientele do they come in, when are they busy, what are they good at, and actually just steal the good ideas. And it's that kind of thing of the best way to actually innovate your company is to look at what other people do, find the niche, find out what you can actually do better than other people, and then kind of just do it. And I think sometimes people shy away from not just the competition element, but you should always recognize that there are other people that will do what they do or you do better than you. And the trick is to almost look at it, accept it, learn from it, and then get as good, if not better. And it's this constant improvement is actually really important to think of. But actually, yeah, have a think and almost put in the comments, what competitors would you or should you kind of check out, see what they're good at, and actually use that to develop your own niche. I think it'd be a really interesting thing to think about. I do it and I actively spend a lot of time doing it. I guess it has two benefits. One, I get to see how my competitors kind of perform. And then two, it does actually improve my skill set, which makes me better for when I talk about stuff. So it's that kind of thing, but the same will be true for you as well. And yeah, related to that, you can also find out what needs as a customer that are those companies not serving. And it's often the hardest thing actually in business and it's a human trait. The hardest skill is to identify things that aren't there. You can often identify if there's an elephant in the room, which is terrible and you hate, but trying to identify the gaps and the opportunities is actually the really kind of most important thing. And then one of the other things that often everyone can do, and this is true in B2B, B2C, is just be more flexible. So for instance, if people have opening hours, or you have 30-day standard payment terms, or whichever, the more you kind of get to know your customers, there are lots of things that you can do that just on lead time or payment terms alone, you could probably win a lot more business just through looking at what your competitors do. Ask your customers, then kind of learn and iterate. I think it's a really important kind of concept to think about. I would love to know in the comments what you've done in the past, how you look to innovate. And another good concept as well is to really have, it's like a business enemy in some ways. It's someone that you admire, who's really good at what they do, but you also kind of hate them. And when you've got that ambition for someone you're almost targeting, to emulate in some ways. So for me, mine is actually something called a Power MBA that you'll probably be able to check out. And they do something very similar to what I do, except they've been going for 3-4 years. But actually, they have 55,000 users. I want that. That's what my target is. And I hopefully believe the stuff I can do, which can do it better. And part of the thing that you'll see me hopefully do for the next 2-3 years is just learn to kind of iterate and that kind of thing as well. But no, I'd love to know kind of what you've done and things that you kind of plan to do for the future. Hi Matt, sorry I'm just reading your comment. Steve, I've never been an academic. Could I honestly get through the Roadmap MBA? Yes, absolutely, piece of piss. And the reason why is that, so for people that don't know Matt is a larger-than-life personality, fantastic guy, very good at talking to people, very good at empathy and understanding people, and also very good at sales, and that is largely in his role, what he does to build those relationships. Matt, as a prime example, I believe you've got a back. If you don't, I'll send you one. Prime example for you is that, I'm trying to think of the best way to do. So for instance, in anyone's job where they spend a lot of time with customers, and the key thing is actually looking at how do you understand your customer better in a way that actually you can help differentiate LV shipping or LV Valenbeck or any of your different topics to really kind of understand how, how to grow the business. And the prime example I'm going to pick to the actual page is on sales qualifying. So there you go, page 134. And the point is, these are some of my notes, that even if you're not academic and you have no interest in doing a full course and you've got kids and that kind of thing, the idea is that if you have this, you can just in 5 minutes flip straight to that page. And the idea is it gives you notes on things to actually work with. So when you have your client meetings, which you're already, because I've met with you many times, exceptionally good at, it's actually, there's 17 points to really go through to make sure that you've understood or asked the questions which will give you value to really help you serve your customers better. So even for people that aren't academic, it's still the idea of actually, that's quite a good idea. So for instance, I'm going to quickly run through them just in terms of sales qualifying, but this is true for anyone. And actually, even I had a chat with a guy yesterday for an hour and we were talking about sales training and how do you train up sales trainers to really kind of help solve their problems. And the process to understand someone's problem is sales qualifying, even if you ignore the sales bit. So it was all to do with what problem are you looking to fix, what's prompting you to do something about it now, what's prevented you from trying to solve it until now, and I won't read them all. But the point is, even if you're not academic, the idea is it just jolts you to think. For instance, question number 8 is, what are you currently spending on this issue? And that prime example can help give you intelligence that can just help you do your job better. And obviously there's 216 pages of it. But even if you're not into reading and actually you don't want to read a 400-page slog of a book, if you kind of just want to get a little bit or understand more about sales, prospecting, for instance, how to get through more doors, I've got a page on that. And the whole point is that you can just read it for 2 minutes or 2 hours and just get ideas that you can then implement or not in your business. And it's that whole idea of trying to make things accessible that I don't believe it has to be complicated. So even if you're not super nerdy and into books and personal development stuff, I still think there's value there. But it's also part of this kind of process that I'm working with lots of different people from different backgrounds. They also like the idea to bounce ideas off me, so they might understand the concept to really look at it and think, okay, that sounds quite interesting, but how could I use that? I'm thinking about this. And then either in the classroom session or now or whichever, to actually say, oh yeah, that sounds quite interesting. And it's that confirmation that you're doing it right. And then you have someone like me that is, I do read all the books and read all the theory and practice it again, just to give you the confidence that you're on the kind of right track. Hi Dave, and thank you for the comments. Yes, this is my new studio. I've been in here since, I think I've done about 7 of these now, maybe not. And I'll be honest, in the next kind of 6 to 12 months, I might move on again, who knows? But the idea is that when you launch any business or product or service or whatever, people do judge you on everything you do. The quality of the paper, the quality of the box, the quality of your live stream, the amount of money you've spent on it, your branding and stuff. And actually for me, it's something that actually, I want to give the best service I can. And I really do kind of throw my heart and soul into it. So actually the more you see me try and turn up every week, even when there's, it might be a difficult one or whichever, I'm doing my best because I actually genuinely want to help serve the community and help them out and actually help them in a way that I kind of never had. I'm going to have to click one thing because I now can't read the comments. I'll be 1 second. Sorry, that's never happened before. Basically, I have a 40-inch monitor behind the camera, which all the comments come up on, and I couldn't read anymore. It just said I had new messages, so hopefully I fixed it, but you never know. But no, Matt, no problem at all. And that's the whole point. And it's often, I think, when you read certain books or you see people present or whatever, people often try and make things sound more complicated than they are, and I kind of hate that. And it's almost the point where, a lot of the context for business stuff isn't that complicated. But the trick is, how do you know where to look? How do you know where to find it? Will you actually understand it in a way that you don't feel stupid if you ask questions? Because that's why I purposely do it the way I do. And I quite literally put myself up once a week, well, a few times a week, but once publicly, to kind of, people can challenge me and that kind of thing and ask me questions that if I didn't know what I was doing, I'd look pretty stupid quite quick. And that's, part of the confidence, but also the USP that I'm trying to create. But I genuinely appreciate the comments. So thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to jump on to the next one. So, what is the hassle premium? With any business, product or service, you generally provide something. You might provide a physical product, which could be pens. You could provide a service, which is marketing or sales or whichever. And one of the things when you really kind of look at your customer's environment, the more you understand about things that they struggle with or things that they don't really want to do, it's a lot of hassle, etc. That is where the opportunities are for business. One prime example at home is our windows. With COVID, our window cleaner couldn't come out for a while. And it was that balance of where I was kind of like, could I do them myself? But then actually relative to the price of, getting on the ladders, getting all the stuff, the risk, the time, etc. It's so much easier for me to just pay someone else to do that. I'm going to use Matord again as a prime example, just because he got involved with the comments, is that if you are a business and you ship, again, pens, you might sell 1 million pens worldwide every year. It could be anything. But you then at some point, you have the decision of, do you have an in-house logistics provider that all they do full time, all the time, is go and source logistics providers, packaging, wood, the labor to do it, etc. Or you can actually hire someone like Matt or LV Valenbeck who actually make bespoke kind of custom packaging to do it for you. But when you really kind of understand that when you're looking at how to grow your business or even grow your career, if you're looking at your boss, if you want to get promoted in work, speak to your boss and actually find out what parts of their job do they hate doing. And it could be an admin task, it could be a client meeting, it could be whichever. And actually the more value you can add to someone in whatever it is, by actually acknowledging this, what is a hassle for someone else to do that you don't mind doing, you could then take on that responsibility and use it as a way to negotiate a pay rise or future kind of progression. Or in business, actually say to a customer, what else do you struggle with? What headaches do you have? And they could say, well, actually, we've got a really big problem with recruiting salespeople. And actually, that might be something that you can help with, but you only find out if you actually ask. And it's really trying to find the things that people perceive as being a hassle that they don't want to pay for. And actually, the bigger the hassle, the more people are likely to pay. And another great one is that the more hassle something is to do, and this includes learning new skills. So for instance, people could, if they wanted to, go into Waterstones, buy 100 books, spend a few years reading them, then look at how they applied them, and actually work with a lot of people and spend a few years to kind of get to a certain point. Or you could kind of just join the course. And that's the kind of thing that when you're trying to look at what you do, there will always be alternatives, but actually if there's a way that you can help solve them and just make your clients' lives easier through removing headaches, it's a really kind of important concept to think of. Hi, Tim. Well, Tim, as a prime example, and I'm going to use this as a genuine one, how do you know what makes a good salesperson? Because one of the big things that actually I've seen over the years is that, I don't know why I'm asking myself, I am allowed to swear on this, is that you get a lot of salespeople that are kind of full of shit. So it's where they talk the talk, they will say to you, oh yeah, in my last company I did 5 million sales and I did this and I did this. But actually, unless you know a lot about sales, how can you tell if someone's actually good and modest or bad and just bragging about what they've done or lying about what they've done? How do you know that? So for Tim, one of the things that you could do, and actually, you know what, I'm even going to do this for you. Within the book, you've got 3 modules on sales, but there are certain questions that actually you can ask them to, get them to run through scenarios with them, get them to qualify you as a buyer in the interview. And what I'll be interested in is it's if they just talk at you and just spout off their CV and say what they've done, or if they actually say to you, look, Tim, what struggles are you having at the moment? Why do you want to hire salespeople? This is all sales qualifying. What is it you're trying to achieve? Why are you trying to achieve it? Why haven't you achieved it without the salespeople? And the more they actually do that, you would then evolve that into something called high value technical selling, is that they would say to you, well, actually, Tim, for your business opportunity, what happens if you don't get any salespeople? And you'd be like, oh God, well, actually, we've raised this money. We want to take the business internationally. We want to go to America. But actually, if we don't have any salespeople to actually promote it, actually, that could be quite bad. And then the salesperson, if they're clever, would say, oh, but okay, so what would that mean? Well, actually, that would mean that we're not getting sales, so actually our funders might get pissed off and actually they're starting to put more pressure on me. The business could fail if we don't get revenue targets to pay back the money that we borrowed. So actually, it's pretty serious if we don't start selling. And then if you've got a very good salesperson, they would say, well, actually, so if I've understood the problem correctly, does this sound about right? And you say, yeah, that sounds about. So actually, and then what they've done is built up the value that they can bring to an organization to actually say, look, I can help you achieve those goals, and this is exceptionally what I'm good at. And that is a very good salesperson to really understand the size of the problem in the client's mind before they offer a solution is a sign of a very, very, very good salesperson, in a way that if they just spout off crap, they're probably not. But the more you understand now about sales, that's a great way to do it. And it's that kind of same thing of the more you understand about a topic, that the risk to Tim in some ways is actually how do you know what you don't know? So the hassle premium is high in case, and also the opportunity risk is high in case it doesn't go as well as you hope. So if you recruit bad salespeople and the sales don't start coming in, you'll have the cost involved, but you could also be 6 months down the line without actually making progress. And it could be pretty serious, and that's where you won't really kind of want to work with specialist recruiters and or people, or even just when you interview them, use tools like the Roadmap just to kind of sense check. Ask them to explain to you how they prospect customers. And you'll soon actually, do that for an interview. Ask them how they prospect customers and how would they qualify customers. And if they can answer that, they're probably pretty good. If they can't, I'd probably keep looking, because the issue is with any sales task, if people just cold call, and yes, as you say, we want to sell a granny but not come across that way, that's not actually what you want, because when you're looking for an ongoing, repetitive relationship with a customer, the person needs to listen and understand, because that's actually how you pass information up and down the business. At the back, it's page 200, and I know that because I spoke to someone about it yesterday. But there's 7 steps to grow a high-performing kind of business. And one of the big ones is actually getting information that you share up and down the business. So from your frontline sales team, when they speak to customers and really understand their pain points and what they're struggling with, so if they're trying to raise funding but they can't, why, etc., that needs to get passed back both to the marketing team so you can start to tackle that pain point, but then likewise to the board so you can actually adapt the whole business strategy to make sure that opportunities, real presence in the market is as good as possible. And it's this kind of thing that I'm quite good at, just because I've experienced a lot of different things, but it is all in the book. And if you've got any questions, Tim, drop me a message. But that hopefully, I try and explain why different things are of interest. And often it's much better to spend a little bit longer and get it right than it is to jump in, get it wrong, and then lose 6 months, if that makes sense. But no, I appreciate the comment, and if you have any more, please kind of drop me a message. Okay, what time are we on? 9:36. It's fun this. I'm going to switch from the coffee to the water in a second, so you'll see me get a green cup instead of a normal coffee one. So I've done the best ways to observe your competitors and really kind of understand where they fit. I've talked about the hassle premium, and this again is where, prime example again, Tim, if you're still kind of watching, going for government and public sector grants and tenders is a hassle. It's a lot of effort, and also there's a lot of time involved. So Tim's whole business, and forgive me if I get this wrong, is aimed around solving the hassle around public sector tenders and actually access to even find those opportunities. So the whole point of opportunity.co.uk is to solve that hassle to help give you access to business opportunities. So Tim's whole business is exactly built around this concept. And the more you understand what are the hassles that your customers face, the more successful you'll kind of be. And especially if you have a niche like finding public sector tenders, that I think you'll do really well. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying this one today because I love the interaction, but it also, in some ways puts you on the spot because this is live and I have 18,000 followers. So although they don't always watch, the risk is still there in case you kind of fluff it up, but it's also, kind of part of the fun that I enjoy. It keeps me on my toes, but luckily because I interact with people like Tim and he was a guest on the podcast, I know more about their business, that actually I can share these kind of real world examples rather than just spout theory, which is what you get in textbooks. And that for me is hopefully part of the roadmap stuff, which people might find kind of useful. I've also just noticed Tim is joining on Facebook, which is fantastic. When I started out, because I stream from something called OBS, but I do it via something called restream.io, which sends that same stream to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and a few others. And you also have to decide, where do you even want to send your broadcast to? And I wasn't sure about Facebook just because, it's normally a business audience that I aim for, but actually just in terms of personal development, I thought, why not? So I'm great to see people kind of interacting on that as well. Cool. Okay, so 9:38, I'm going to jump on to the last point. But again, if you've got any questions at all, please drop them in the chat and I will happily answer them if I can. Okay, blank sheet of paper. So the last thing that I want to talk about today is how to prototype your product. It's when you actually kind of want to launch a new product or service. There's a book called The Lean Startup, which you've probably heard of, but it's actually all to do with how to get your stuff out into the world, learn, improve, and then actually kind of version 2 will be so much better. So I'm going to go back to every business, no matter what you do. Hi Matt. Yes, opportunity.co.uk it really is genuinely, it's an amazing business, and thank you for kind of commenting. But yeah, so prototyping is true and it's relevant for every single business. Doesn't matter if you're recruitment, a copywriter, a business strategy guy, or whichever. The whole point is when you develop something new, there's a point where it's in your head, it's an idea. And then actually what you then do is that as you create and launch your business, you might do your first version 1, which for me is this. And you know, I had a few hundred copies printed, I launched the website, I did the live stream. And actually what's been really interesting is that I constantly learn from people, both from what they do and what they don't do, that actually I kind of live and breathe this, and I'm actually in this process myself. But it's also true for everything you do in business, even down to how you send your emails. So one of the things when I approach people about the Roadmap MBA, I might send them a link on, just a very polite message on LinkedIn. And over time, I've learned to just change it and improve it and actually see what works and see what doesn't. And you can do exactly the same. But say if you were to launch a new restaurant, it's the example I'm going to do. There's actually certain things that you can look at that actually you should really kind of think through. What's the best way that I can launch my business? You want to find that business's niche. So for instance, if you wanted to, I'm trying to think of Newcastle. Say if you wanted to launch a new French restaurant in Newcastle, we used to have Café Rouge, which actually I was quite a big fan of, it went bust. We've now got one called Cote, and I don't think there's too many others. But my point is, you might have an idea to launch a new restaurant within a city. And you might think, well, actually, I think there's a niche for, high-end Mexican food, whatever you think is. So you're actually starting to think about your niche to then launch the restaurant. One of the challenges you have, though, is that you actually need to start then talking to your customers. So actually say, well, what type of restaurant do you want? And actually, it's called relevance importance testing. So I'm going to go. So what you're doing here is, in the French restaurant example, you want to launch a restaurant and you want it to be busy and you want your customers to love it. But if you were to do market research and you said to customers, rank these things out of 0 to 10 on what's most important to you, you'll probably, so it could be value for money, which is, objective, because what is value to one person might not be value to someone else, portion size, etc. But what you'll have is that people will want massive portions, relative, massive portions, good value, high quality, nice decor, friendly staff. You can imagine that if you ask customers on 0 to 10, what do they want? They'll tell you they want everything, because that's true. One of the things which is all about relevance important testing is actually saying to a customer within that kind of market research, okay, so within the restaurant, would you prefer to have food within 5 minutes or a high-end dining experience? And what you're doing is you're comparing A versus B. And what you can gradually do over time is that when you actually ask these questions, it was a guy called Jordan in the 1980s, Jordan Louvier, and it's asking simple questions, which is actually, would you rather have a high-end dining experience, or would you prefer to have meals under £15? And then within the overall concept of your niche, which could be the French restaurant in Newcastle, you start to then drill down to understand what is it your customers actually want. Because one of the other ones as well is that if you see that customers want food within 5 minutes, because if it's a city centre location, you might want them in and out quite quickly. If they also want a wide variety of food options, the challenge you've got then from a business point of view, your chefs and your team have to learn how to cook more meals. You have to hold more stock, so you're going to have more food waste, etc., etc. And actually, in the example of Matt Ord, actually, for his partner's business, where they've got a brilliant floristry business based down in Stockton-on-Tees, the wider the variety of products that you sell, the more stock you have to hold, the more flowers you have to hold in the chiller, the bigger your chiller has to be, the bigger your electricity expenses. the harder your logistics will be, the more choice the customer has. But often if you have too much choice, it can be a bad thing, which I've covered on the kind of podcast before. But it's actually rarely where, if you actually ask the customers, look, what is important to you, what you want, and it might be to deliver beautiful flowers quickly to your friends locally within, I don't know, a £60 limit might be the idea. That actually, could you run the business in a way that you actually offer a smaller selection, which means the business owner doesn't have to hold as much stock and have lower inventory costs. But as long as the person who's the buyer or the giver of the gift knows that the person's going to get beautiful flowers, they might actually be more open to being flexible on what the flowers are. They kind of just take your trust on it. But when you're looking to build a lean, efficient business, if you had fewer stock and just, a smaller number of orders, if you knew, like McDonald's, if you knew that you had 5 main products as opposed to 100 potential products, and on average you sell 2 a day, you could actually have them ready so that if someone placed an order, you could probably deliver them much quicker and therefore deliver a better quality service and have a USP versus every other florist through actually reducing the amount of options. And it's this kind of thing, but again, you only get that through relevance importance testing to actually find out what the customers really want, what's the most important, what's the least important. And you can actually build a very good, successful, profitable business that customers even love more. Because often, if you ask them what do they want, they'll say everything. But when if you're able to hone down on exactly what it is, you might really be able to find your niche. So hopefully that's useful. And what I again try and do is link it back to people who I know in some of their businesses in a way that it's to add more value that hopefully they might find useful from joining these kind of sessions. What are we on? So we're on 9:46. So what's new for me? I'm actually going to have a rest this weekend. I need to finish that book, which I must admit has been a slog to get through. But again, what it's done is prove to me that one of the most important things to my customer is time. So accessing, answering Matt's question from before, I know that people are very time poor because they've got a lot of commitments. So the idea that you can pick something up literally for 2 minutes, learn something, hopefully that you can implement and then put it down again, is brilliant. Or you can log into a live stream, or you can watch the videos online or whichever, in a way that other people don't. And that's part of my relevance importance testing, because people want flexibility and convenience, and they also want to know it's high quality and relevant. And it's that relevance for small businesses is kind of my niche, and that's what I'm going for. And over time it might develop and that kind of thing, or it might not. But either way, I'll do my best. So thank you for joining today. I really appreciate your comments. All of these get clipped up and go onto YouTube. So if you thought any of this was even mildly interesting, if you search for Steve Pugh Roadmap MBA, there are hundreds of videos on there that cover everything I've ever done. I clip them all up. So each section's normally about 7 minutes. That if you have 7 minutes to spare and you're interested in looking at business strategy or whichever, hopefully it might be of interest. Feel free to drop me a message anytime. Ask questions to questions@roadmapmba.com. I have people send me in these from all around the world about anything, and hopefully I will try and answer them. And yeah, so thank you for your time. Have a wonderful weekend. And yeah, I hopefully will speak to you soon. All right, cheers guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.